Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 170. Baruch Hashem, it is great to be back home. Great to reconnect with you from my normal space. I did get a little bit sick on the way home, and I'm still dealing with like the brain fog of jet lag. I don't know what happens when I travel. I am great the whole trip, and then I come home and there's like this letting go. And my husband's like, just give yourself some time. And I'm like, trying to take it easy. But I really wanted to take some time to really connect with you all and continue on this journey that we've been on discussing this topic of arguments and fighting. And yes, we're going to talk about some of the reasons why we don't fight, but we've also been talking about the last 2 weeks the reasons why not fighting is not necessarily the answer. And if you've missed those two, then I really invite you to go back and listen to those coffee and connections. And I'm just gonna take a moment to plug I'm a little late to the party, so let's call it my Cyber Monday sale. Um, Both inviting you to giving you the details for the three-part masterclass, which is gonna be going on in 2 weeks, please God, and also inviting you to upgrade to the VIP experience. And the Cyber Monday deal is now available. It's like half price. You're going to get 3 extra days of coaching and all the masterclass and the coaching recordings, lifetime access. Also, you can join right now and listen to the Absolutely Feminine Masterclass from last year. And that's already available, very much on a similar topic, really like I was also talking about how to deal with challenges in a way that creates connection. Just I have a different spin right now that I'm going to be taking with all of you and we've been taking, but you can dive into that topic already even more in the Absolutely Feminine Masterclass. And you also get a one-on-one call with me so we can make sure that you have a plan to continue creating connection even when there is conflict, because we know that there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be differences. There's always going to be different ways of looking at issues. There's going to be different opinions. And it's very important to make sure that we have clarity as how to deal with those challenges. Okay. So the question of whether or not there'll be coffee and connection during that masterclass, so that I guess they'll kind of, instead of coffee and connection, there'll be the masterclass Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That'll be the three-part masterclass that will be available to everyone. And then Monday, Wednesday, and the following Sunday, there will be coaching specifically for VIP members. And I'm really excited about it. I have so much more I want to share on this topic, so much we can dive into as to how to really turn conflict into connection. And we're going to touch a little bit more on that today. Why do we not fight? So, by the way, anyone who does want to get in on that Cyber Monday deal that's going on now, I sent an email about it before, but here, let me see. Here we go. I actually have the link still on my in my clipboard. So there you go. Anyone who wants to jump into that, it's only $47 for the next, I think it's 4 more days. You can get it for only $47. Some people have asked me if they can choose to have VIP once they already have heard the masterclass and decide if they want to keep it. You will have the ability to upgrade to VIP, but the $47 deal will be going away at the end of this sale period, right? So you'll have a few days now where you could really get it at half price and jump in right now to all of the tools and resources that will be available to you as well as a VIP member. And any of you who have done VIP before, like, with all your heart or anything like that, like I can say confidently that nobody has ever felt that they didn't get way more than their money's worth. I mean, the coaching sessions, the deeper resources that you get, the way that we really dive in to see practically how to apply it is is always like so much. There's so much that comes out of it just to really give you everything that you need to continue moving forward. What is the class focusing on? Turning conflict into connection. Really, the title says it all. It's going to be diving deeper into this idea of how to, even as we are dealing with conflict, even as we're dealing with differences, to be able to create connection. What gets in the way of that? How to kind of deal with the issues that come up around it. And honestly, these coffee and connections are teasers to that. So if you've been loving this series of coffee and connection, this is we're just getting started. We're just getting started on this topic, and we'll dive into it even more on the masterclass. And there is so much to say on this topic. That's why I'm really excited about it. And I started talking about it so early. Yeah, so the masterclass is free. That will be the three-part masterclass, Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then the VIP, which is what is now part of the Cyber Monday deal, gives you three, just to say it again, three, because I'm getting asked about it, three coaching calls where you'll have the opportunity to ask practical questions, get that group coaching, which is so powerful. And if you've never experienced group coaching, you want to see what it's like, because it's amazing what happens when you not only get to hear your challenges being shared by somebody else, or you get to understand like the dynamic that's going on because you hear a woman ask a question, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's what my husband feels like." Or you get to realize you're not alone. You get to see that these are like normal challenges. You get to feel part of like this a community. You get to hear the coaching in a way that feels less sensitive, because it's like this is not just for me, this is for everyone, and you get to apply. I teach you how to apply all the coaching that I give to all the other women's questions to your challenges as well. So definitely something that if you've experienced, you know the power of, and if you've never experienced, you definitely want to experience. So that is available, like I said, for the next few days, just $47, and you get the recordings of everything. And also, we get to get on a call together, which is always fun. Okay, so why don't we fight? If fighting is so important, let's dive into today's topic. Why don't we fight? I want to talk about the three biggest reasons why we don't fight, and they all come from a good place. We're going to deal with them. Okay. So let's look at what those reasons generally are. By the way, if you're thinking of other reasons, go ahead and put them in the chat, because that will help me to make sure I do touch on them at another time, and to make sure that what I'm sharing here really does address everything that you're feeling. So I would say that based on my experience, what I hear from my clients, what I hear from women that I've worked with, that I've spoken to, the three biggest reasons why we don't fight is, let's start with number one, because we don't want to. We don't want to be like we don't want to do all the things that we think of when we picture two people having a fight, right? We don't want to yell. We don't want to be saying things that we're going to regret. We don't want to be saying nasty things. We don't want to be sarcastic and snarky. We don't want the negativity. We don't want to feel anger. We don't want to have that. We don't want to hear negative things either. We don't want to be yelled at. We don't want to experience the negativity and the yucky feeling that fighting creates, mostly because I would say the two biggest reasons we don't want to fight in this category is because we don't want to be nasty and we don't want to hear nasty things either. Right? Does that resonate with you? So, number one, I'm going to say 100%, we don't want that. And that's why what we're not going to talk about is how to yell and scream and lose it and be negative. Definitely, when we're talking about turning conflict into connection, it's important to stay real. One of the most important things is going to be staying real and true to our values. And I think the majority of us, if we're here, our values are not yelling and screaming. Our values are not being nasty. Our values are not being mean and saying things we regret. That's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. So, yes, it's important to deal with our challenges and not just ignore them. It's also important to know how to deal with them so that we're not yelling, so that we're not saying things we regret, so that we're not going into fight or flight, so that we're not being the women we want to be, right? We don't want to be nasty. And I'm into that. I don't want you to be either. I'm not standing here saying, yes, let's fight. Let's get like ready to rumble, right? Let's have it out. Let's be nasty. Let's be disgusting. Let's be mean. No, no, that would be consider, like, sometimes when we think of, like, it's important to get it all out, it's important to say things, we think that that gives us permission to just say anything we want to say, be any way we want to be. But that's not going to feel good if that's not in your integrity, if that's not your values. If you want to create a relationship that is about connection, right? And if you want to turn conflict into connection, that means you want connection. Well, connection isn't built on yelling and nastiness. So, yes, it's important to deal with those challenges. It's important to deal with them in a way where we feel we are being in integrity. And being real about the fact that sometimes we might say something we regret, sometimes we might get upset, sometimes we might get triggered. Well, first of all, learning how to acknowledge when we're being triggered, how to deal with it when we're being triggered, how to deal with ourselves so that we're less likely to be triggered, how to learn how to manage all of that. That's very important. And it's also very important to know how to repair, how to make those vulnerable apologies, how to self correct when we do find ourselves not being the women that we want to be. And then when it comes to the other side of, like, we don't want to hear nasty things. So I'm going to say, again, kind of branch that out into two things. If we're literally being spoken to in a nasty way, if we're being yelled at, if we're being spoken to in, like, a way that really we are, being disrespected, then sometimes we think that if we're going to fight, then that means we have to be okay with that. We don't have to be okay with that. Well, if we're going to do it, we have to be ready to receive it back. That's the thing. We have to remember always, like, sometimes we want to yell, but we don't want to be yelled at. So that's one of the reasons it's so important to be in integrity. We also get to learn how to set boundaries as we are dealing with conflict, so that there are certain ways of being that we both won't do and won't allow ourselves to be treated that way, right? And that takes a lot of self respect and boundaries and discipline to both not be the way we don't want to be treated and know how to walk away respectfully from an interaction that doesn't feel good without at the same time doing the exact same thing that we're saying we don't want the other person to be doing, right? If we yell at someone not to yell at us, if we turn around and ignore the person because we feel they're disrespecting us, we're doing the same thing back that we're telling them we don't want them to do to us. So basically, we're saying it's okay to do that if you feel disrespected. And probably they feel disrespected, which is why they're yelling. Is this confusing? A little bit, but it's really important, right? So it is important to know how to set healthy boundaries. And it's also important to know that just like there are difficult things that we may need to sometimes say, it's also important to be able to hear the difficult things in a respectful way. But yes, to understand that in a relationship where conflict turns into connection, that also is going to include being open to hearing the things that are difficult to hear, which does necessitate feeling safe. Just like we've talked about how it's important to create safety so you can say difficult things when they need to be said, it's also important to create safety so that you can hear difficult things when they need to be said. And we'll talk a lot more about this on the masterclass for sure. So that's the first thing. We don't want the negative, like picture we have when we think about fighting. Yes, we don't want that. So we have to talk about how to deal with challenges without becoming that monster or being okay with being treated, that way by somebody else. The second reason why I think we don't want to deal with conflict or challenge is because many of us have learned that it's not a good thing to deal with conflict. It's not a good thing to have any negativity in the space. And I think we have dealt with this in the other episodes, but I'll mention it, that while it is true that we don't want to create, like I was just saying, a feeling of, we don't want to create non-safety, it is important to deal with those challenges, because without dealing with challenges, that's how we end up with resentment, right? The fear ends up creating the fear of, well, I don't want to get upset at you because I just want you to be happy and I want us to just have peace, can lead to resentment building up and building up and building up till when you suddenly explode and you don't know why, right? Or you find yourself turning away from any type of intimacy, physical or otherwise, because you just have so much resentment towards this person, or you find yourself just being passive aggressive and because you're just so bothered by things, or you just give in, give in, give in, give in, mevater, 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 to the point where you kind of lose yourself, and that can create resentment within you. It can also create a situation where, like, you do lose yourself. And then the connection you're looking to build, there isn't a you to connect with, right? So the fear of, oh no, because it's going to cost this connection can end up costing you the connection that you are really looking for. So we do want to be careful to not get sucked into that fear of, but it's going to create issues of connection, right? That's why it's so important to learn how to create connection in those moments. And I would say that the third reason why I hear most women don't want to deal with connection don't want to deal with conflict is because when they see that there's a conflict between them and their husbands, they see a difference between them. They see different ways of handling things. They see that they're not on the same page as something. They really it turns into despair, a just giving up, a feeling of like, I can't believe we're not on the same page. I can't believe you don't see it the way I see it. I can't believe you would do that. I can't believe you would say that. I can't believe we're different in this way. And it's like this, like just despair. Like, we're so different. I can't believe I married you. I can't believe you would say that. It's like this, such a feeling of almost like a depression, of like a just, ugh. And then either feeling like they have to just take care of it themselves. And rather than looking for teamwork, they're just dealing with things, which might cause the other person to feel resentful that he's not being included, and may cause you to feel resentful because you feel like you're doing everything yourself. Or it may cause you just like, again, giving up and losing yourself. Or it may just cause this, like, again, like an unspoken hostility and this, again, despair, negativity that's like within you because you feel so bothered, depressed, let down, upset that this is who I'm married to. This is what we're dealing with. And this is where I'm going to say very, very clearly, number one, you and your husband are not the same person. I know when we date, we're often given the impression that we should find someone who's just like us. And maybe you married your husband thinking he was just like you, and then you felt duped when he wasn't. You felt that he was lying to you, or you feel like your parents or your shadchan or whoever, or you yourself just made such a mistake thinking that this person was just like you, or you just think he was being devious, or you just, how could you have not realized, or you may just feel like, I can't believe that we're not the same. But you're not the same. You're two different people. And as you continue on in life, thank God, you're going to continue to be different people. There's no way to know how each of you would raise children until you raise children together. There's no way to know how each of you would deal with money until you're making or not making money together. There's no way to know how you'd be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond until you're there. You don't know how you're going to deal with living together until you're living together. And it's not possible for the two of you to agree on everything. It's not possible for the two of you to like have the same reaction to things because you're not the same person. You're not. It's impossible. So differences are not an indication that something is wrong. They're an indication that you're two healthy people. And actually, the more you talk about things, the more you'll get to learn about each other, the more you can respect that there are differences, the more you can deal with those differences, the more you can look to understand each other, the more you can look to value each other, the more you can look to create connection in the conflict, right? Because conflict, if you think about it, is really two different people thinking about something in a different way. And whereas we may be very quick to see that conflict and go, oh my gosh, what is this? It's actually an opportunity to go, oh, what is this? what's you like, here's my values here. I know what my values are in this situation. What are your values? What's your mindset? What's coming up for you? And learning about each other. And that's how you can figure out how to deal with those issues. Yes. And at the same time, not just deal with the conflict, create connection because you're getting to know each other. Again, that does take a knowing who you are to be able to feel confident in who you are and not worry that your husband seeing it differently is going to somehow compromise on who you are. It takes feeling safe, knowing that your husband is different than you and being okay with that, and being able to really hear each other, communicate, listen, express yourself, be vulnerable, deal with the vulnerability of knowing that you're not exactly the same and everything isn't going to go exactly the way that you want because thank God you're a team. And that means it's not going to go the way either one wants. It's going to go the way you both want. You get to work towards a third alternative. So that is how I would answer, the top 3 reasons I think why we don't fight and how we can shift the script a little bit to still allow ourselves to not deny the issues that we have, not allow them to become excuses to like lose our values and express ourselves in ways that we don't want to express ourselves in, also not allow ourselves to be treated in ways that we don't want to be treated in. We don't have to try to sweep things under the rug where they never disappear, and we can actually deal with challenges in a way that they can really create connection, right? So I invite you when you think about, if you've been looking to create connection, looking to create a feeling of safety, looking to deal with conflict in a way that feels more peaceful and connecting, and you're finding it a challenge to kind of lean into like which of these issues may be coming up for you, which is resonating. Do you find yourself kind of like losing it a little bit during arguments, during discussions, during disagreements? Do you find yourself not talking the way you really ideally want to be spoken to? Do you find yourself like giving almost, I don't want to say permission because this is not about blaming, somebody who's not being treated well for being treated that way, but you find yourself allowing, like, just giving space to be treated a way that you feel is not respectful, that you don't want to be treated that way, but maybe you don't know how to set that boundary, right? Sometimes it's not that we don't want to be treated a certain way, and we can learn how to set a boundary so that we're not being treated that way. Do you find yourself not fully expressing yourself to keep the peace, and or do you find yourself feeling so sad and upset about the issues that are coming up that you don't even know how to or want to deal with them? If any of that resonates, you're welcome to send me a message and let me know. And there's so much more we could say about this, and we will, right? Thank God we will have a lot more time to talk about this, and we can talk about how even more to deal with each of these situations so that we can turn conflict into connection. And I'll just say again, if all of this is already resonating with you, then I really do encourage you to go and jump into that, I'm not going to say Black Friday, Cyber Monday offer that's now available so that you can get all the extra coaching, all the extra resources, listen to the Absolutely Feminine Masterclass, which is going to get you all ready even more for the Turn Conflict into Connection Masterclass. And we'll get to have a full week together to really lean in, figure out what's standing in your way, and get you ready to create the shift that's going to make the biggest difference for you. I can't wait to see you next week and to see you in the VIP. And I hope that this was really helpful for all of you. Please, God, we will have one more coffee and connection before that masterclass. And until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.